Sharon Kaur is standing by. She's a Liberal strategist and the partner as well, one of them at Sovereign Advisory. Sharon, happy Friday. Good to see you. And your take on the numbers tightening this week.
Well, we are a few days away from the election, and we generally see this. More and more people are paying attention. So expect the polls, I would say, to be generally steady at this point now. I think people have, for the most part, decided which way they're going. But we also have to look at how many people voted in advance polls. We're seeing record high numbers of it. So I think this is a great thing. I think the polls are going to continue to stay somewhat steady. And again, the only poll that really matters, though, is the one on Election Day, which is Monday.
Yeah, and I'm curious as well, the Conservatives are really trying to push being change agents now. They've got it up on their lecterns on the podium, change. And Pierre Poilievre talking a lot about this in Saskatoon today, about the need for change. We do not want a fourth mandate for the Liberals, he's trying to say. The change strategy can be a powerful one for voters, especially after 10 years of Liberal rule.
Well, this is a change election, regardless of whether it's Liberal or Conservative messaging, because even on the Liberal side, we're seeing a complete shift in the polls from what we saw last year. This is a change election for the Liberals because there is a new leader, there is a new mandate of what the leader would like to do. And we also have this extremely, I would say, prickly issue that we're dealing with, which is Donald Trump. And that in itself is part of the change election. Now, of course, Pierre Poilievre's message is going to be very specific around what kind of change he wants. And the change he wants is to see a different government that is led by him. That's going to be up to voters. But what we're seeing at the doors and what we're seeing in the polls and in the conversations we're having is that Canadians want someone who can deal with what's happening in the U.S. because that is an existential crisis to everything that is affecting us here in Canada. It's going to affect us from top to bottom with affordability, with everything. So it is a change election, regardless of whose message it is.
The other thing I'm curious about is, as we get into the final stretch here, the preferred prime minister continuing to show Mark Carney with a wide lead. Can you explain how that is a factor here? So, somebody might say, I'm going to vote Conservative, but I think Mark Carney is better as prime minister. How do you sort of make heads or tails of that?
Well, I think there's a bit of the ideology aspect there. There are folks who say are ideologically conservative voters, or even if they're NDP voters and want to stick to their ideological base by voting for their party, even though they recognize that Mark Carney is the best person to lead. We've heard a lot of that at the door, but what we've heard is people saying, you know what, I generally tend to vote either NDP or Conservative, but I'm going to be voting for Mark Carney this time around because, again, our biggest focus right now is having someone at the helm who can handle Donald Trump. And so far to date, there has been a respectful dialogue with the U.S. and the temperature has gone down significantly from what it was before. And that's the number one thing we are hearing at the door. We are hearing a lot about affordability and housing and safety and all these other things, but they are all tied into the core message. Everything that happens with the U.S. is going to impact us. And that's why I think people are looking at Mark Carney as the best option to vote for.
You seem confident.
I would say I've talked to a lot of people at the doors. I'm here in Toronto Centre, for example. I've been supporting a local candidate in supporting the Liberal Party, and it's unlike anything I've seen before at the doors in terms of what people are saying. There are folks who generally would never vote outside of their ideological base, but they understand what is at stake, and they understand that this is a two-way race. And I've never seen it this way before. So we are going to hustle, and I think everyone is going to hustle, but I'm confident that people are going to do the right thing because they know that there's so much at stake here. And while Pierre Poilievre wants to focus on plastic straws and removing development aid internationally, Mark Carney is going to focus on dealing with Donald Trump and trying to get us into a better place with how we deal with our largest trading partner down south.
Sharon Kaur joining us, Liberal strategist, partner at Sovereign Advisory. Good to see you, Sharon. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend.